Season openers of any series is very important. This is where you get introduced to the universe, its rules and characters. It opens the door, but it can't flood you with a lot of things. Power Rangers is a difficult act to balance, from using footage to introducing you to 5 or more characters. Some seasons go for slow pace because it has a lot of stuff in it, or it just dumps everything out and it's up to you to put it together. What I look for in a pilot is decent character introductions, a simple monster fight. It doesn't have to be anything big. The Rangers are real people. They show excitement and dread for being picked in protecting the planet, as well as screw-ups. No one's perfect. The show doesn't have to be overly serious. I want drama, but I don't want a dysfunctional team. I want to like the characters and not compare them to pieces of wood.
Kick into Overdrive.
Pilot episodes can be funny. They introduce you to a new world, how everything connects, how the characters act. It also shows the good potential they can give, which is why I have the Overdrive's pilot in my list. Even though the season turned out poorly and annoying, it did have a good start. Overdrive embraced the Indiana Jones adventure around the world aspect of Bokenger. It also took elements of Batman/Iron Man. Billionaire creates his own team of Power Rangers, has a butler that's the voice of reason. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, just like Lightspeed Rescue. A really hyperactive son, in some ways bits of the various Robins from Batman, then with the superpowers given to the Rangers. Overdrive went really close to a traditional comic book type of story. It just got lost after the early episodes. I wish they just weren't wasted.
Powers from the past.
I really enjoyed the pilot episode of Dino Charge. While most season openers introduce us to all the Rangers and their stuff, Dino Charge decided to focus only on 2 of them. While the others were there, they were kept to the side. It's a small mystery. I'm thinking about who they are, how are they gonna act like, will they be mad at Shelby when they find out? Tyler and Shelby freak out at what they see, no one knows what's going on, all they know is that this monster's trying to steal these rocks. The best scene was not knowing how the morphers work, then turning into the Rangers. The shock of the situation is what I love. If I was in Tyler's position, I'd totally act the same way. I was just frozen, somehow I'm not dead, I was handed this gun from nowhere. I'm gonna be like, I don't know what to do with this thing. I'm not gonna expect a head to chomp on me like that. Now, I want to talk about why I don't have a problem with Dino Charge showing that Tyler and Shelby don't know what a Power Ranger is versus how Ninja Steel did it. For Dino Charge, Tyler and Shelby are thrown off guard, in danger, confused, and completely overwhelmed. So when the suits come on, you're not gonna go, oh, I'm a Power Ranger. You're gonna go, holy crap, I'm fighting a monster. You can say, oh, well, Tyler and Shelby didn't know about the Power Rangers. How come everyone gives Ninja Steel so much grief with that scene? It's because they have someone directly asking what's a Power Ranger in a confused manner on screen. There's less tension during that moment, so it gives the audience a chance to go, wait, what? This is a different universe again? The series has been doing a soft reboot since Lost Galaxy. There is leeway in shock and surprise, but most of the time, they don't go out of their way in showing confusion towards the title itself. People can be confused on the tech. No one knows what or how a morpher is used, and people can make fun of the aspects that go along with the Power Ranger, like in RPM. Just don't state it directly on camera. It benefits no one. It doesn't help the story in a meaningful way. Kids are not going to get confused that there's a billion other seasons before, or shows like Beast Wars and Legend of Korra would have failed. It just pisses off longtime fans. Then all the producers are drilled on Twitter and conventions. Why would you want to go through all that?
Ninja Quest.
I've given MMPR Season 3 a lot of hate and complaints, but I still love the season opener. One of the major issues with the ongoing story that PR does over Super Sentai is they have to deal with new suits and footage that's forced. Sometimes it causes problems like Zeo to Turbo, or it can be a blessing like here. Alright, they had the issue with the MMPR movie, so they had to tweak the story and retell it, but them destroying the Thunder Zords was the best idea that came from Season 3. Technically, they were destroying 2 sets of Zords, plus the original Power Coins. The Rangers got stripped of everything they used and loved. It was a tough moment to see. I loved the inclusion of Ninjor and the side ninja powers, and I got something fresh out of the season. Yeah, it was annoying that the old suits were still used, but I was happy.
Operation Lightspeed.
This was a single episode premiere. I have to say they crammed in a ton of stuff. backstory, the military operation, the Rangers themselves, and the pace was perfect. The Rangers didn't want the jobs at first, they didn't know how to fight, only one of them came from a martial arts background, they struggled to use the powers. That's why I love the Lightspeed cast. All of them are very different people with backgrounds and problems, but when Captain Mitchell came to them and showed them, you're good, you're built for this job, they took it and went with it. It also opened the universe to the Power Rangers being a service, like a police department. They worked for the city and didn't keep a secret identity, which fed into later episodes, good and bad.
From out of nowhere.
In Space's premiere was a small, big premiere, meaning it's huge world building, introducing old villains and new villains, what's happening to Zordon, then you have the Turbo Rangers stumbling on Andros. This is the only time we get introduced to one new Ranger for a show. We have this personal interaction, the Turbo Rangers are on board the mega ship, they don't know what's going on, Andros thinks they're enemies, everyone's running around, things are getting worse, no one's trusting anyone, all this while Zordon gets further and further away from the Rangers. It builds up to this peak of the old Rangers fighting with nothing. That's what I want from PR. Characters not giving up. Everyone hates them, they're surrounded, yet they still go on. It felt so much like a season finale than an actual premiere.
Beginnings.
SPD was a lot to take in, but it was good. The show spent a lot of money on its look. Visually, we're in the future. I believe in this future with the giant talking dog. Then we have the Rangers, these bumbling cadets that don't really know what to do, and they're the second best. It just shows how far A Squad is above everyone else. Beginnings also gives SPD some originality. Z and Jack were homeless outlaws, basically the Robin Hood archetype. This caused a rift for all the characters. Sky hates Kruger for making Jack the Red Ranger, Z and Jack don't like following orders, they didn't train in the SPD Academy. It also had a purpose. Sid, Bridge, and Sky became stagnant with each other. They weren't improving, they didn't have really anything to strive for, so Kruger threw in the monkey wrench. It really showed that he understands the mentor role well, probably has shaped dozens of teams. Too bad he didn't figure out that A Squad was evil. I miss the SPD universe. Its aesthetics were nice, we haven't seen this much tech since Lightspeed. Even though there is some crummy episodes done, Sam being screwed as a ball of light, the season had one of the best casts.
Worse from the future.
Time Force's pilot is one of those hard type openings for PR. It starts off in the year 3000. They did a pretty good job in giving this time period some life, since this is all we get to see from it, going as far as taking other productions' futuristic cars to give more value. Rangers in the future have become law enforcement, a logical evolution of the powers. We're introduced to two Red Rangers, one is killed on screen, which was a pretty big moment. It has happened before with Mike, but this becomes a driving force for the entire team. Ransik is one of the worst villains of the series. He goes back in time in order to conquer Earth faster, doesn't care about life, but he isn't just the evil for the sake of evil. He has layers. Even the Rangers cross into areas that we're not comfortable with. Jen borders on that line of revenge. She doesn't treat Wes with respect, so she just gets reminded of what's going on. Plus, only sees a spoiled rich guy. Everyone else is struggling to follow her orders, all while being stuck in 2001. No food, no base, no nothing. It's probably one of the lowest points a Power Ranger team reaches, bar the Turbo Rangers in the finale. It's why people love Time Force so much. The show doesn't hide the fact that heroes and villains can have a gray line that they can cross. We all have emotions. Certain times things make us go to the other side of the coin. Even Ransik's anger is fueled by the abuse and hatred he got when he was born from the chemicals. I'm not saying he's justified in his actions, but you can't ignore that people mistreated him.
Laser Quest.
Lost Galaxy was a really big moment for the franchise. While they didn't throw everything out, this was a completely new, fresh start, and it opened big. We were introduced to a full new cast of characters. I had to get used to that. Finding out how Bulk, Skull, and the Professor fit into the show, one of the things I hated about Lost Galaxy, these guys got totally wasted. Full new villain characters, plus a very odd source material of a Sentai. Everyone lives on this futuristic space station that's being attacked by giant bugs, weird portals, different planets. They threw in every sci-fi story in Lost Galaxy. I'm grateful in many ways that they went high concept, because I wouldn't have come back to the series. I had quit when Turbo ended. I didn't bother to watch In Space. If it weren't for Lost Galaxy and its pilot blowing me away, this YouTube channel wouldn't have been created, so it's an important season to me. I was sad that the Zordon era ended, but I was happy we got new people and new ideas. I did wish if we had continued One Piece through each season, like how they did with the Megaship and Corone, say one character would come back, or a story idea to keep that little bit of continuity going.
Day of the Dino.
We've had a new season of Power Rangers using dinosaurs again. They bring back one of the originals. With just those 2 check marks, it would have been a fine season. But Dino Thunder goes the extra mile, has new characters that push the show into great territory. The school setting is back. We have a new nerdy Blue Ranger that gets everyone in trouble, a very fishy former friend of Dr. Oliver, a Red Ranger that doesn't really care to mingle with the small folk, and a Yellow Ranger that just wants to be left alone. 3 different types of personalities, all complaining and hating on each other, while we have Tommy in the middle of 2 major issues. Everything collides together, so he's forced to form a new team of Rangers from the most incompatible bunch of teens. It was great that the show was poking fun at MMPR. While we loved those characters, they weren't completely believable. It also reintroduces Tommy back into the PR universe very well. We all love the older characters, so seeing them in later seasons is always a thing we want, but I was afraid that they would have gone too far. Luckily, the writers knew how to incorporate Tommy into the show, but left the breathing room to the new Ranger cast. Thanks to Dino Thunder for coming up with a wealth of great characters, interesting villains, and anti-heroes. They also redeemed me back to the Tommy character.
The Road to Corinth.
Why do so many people like RPM? Why is it talked about so much? It's not just because the season is so-called dark. I'd rather use the word realistic. Power Rangers was created back in the early 90s. Over the 2 decades, storytelling has evolved, even for kids shows. People want backstory, motivation, characters that aren't just mustache-twirling villains. At the same time, RPM doesn't toss away the core nature of the series. Power Rangers is and will always be an action-adventure show with comedy injected in. Road to Corinth wasn't afraid to introduce us to literally a new Earth which had a worldwide disaster. At the same time, not feature the Ranger powers, instead starting off with Dylan and Ziggy. It's filled with mystery, confusion, and drama. We didn't see the usual stuff. No Ranger stumbling onto the powers, no everyone is working together. Some characters are questionable. We know the world was badly affected by pollution and taken over by this Terminator-like master villain called Vengeance. We're taken through this new season wondering what's happening, who these new characters are. We aren't pulled out of the story. Then at the end, the 3 new operators come in and morph. RPM taught me a lot of things, no matter how different the source material is, and Go Andre is a total 180 of this series. Writers can come up with great stories for the show, all while still making fun characters and goofy plots that keeps what we all love from the series. When Saban Brands and Zakor said they wanted to go away from RPM because it didn't feel like a Power Ranger series, I was shocked. Ziggy is the embodiment of the show's comedy. RPM brings up tough stories like other seasons before. It's basically what a lot of people want. Every good idea put into one place. Is there still a place for MMPR style episodes? Of course. Not everything has to be serialized, overarching dramatic storylines that has ingrained seeds here and there. You could still have some generic characters that fill the season up, as long as you write good episodes, come up with interesting, fun stories. Give us a reason for us to care about this new Zord or that new Ranger being introduced. It'll be a solid season. What are your thoughts on the season premieres? Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own? And if you have a suggestion on what future topic you'd like me to do, leave a comment down below. Next week, I'll talk about my favorite Megazord cockpits.